I went to a fashion school, so, you know, they pushed to work in fashion. I don't know if they still do the program now where you take a semester and you work with a fashion or a retail store. I don't know if they do that here anymore, but that's what I did. And I worked for Saks. Saks is a great company to work for. Working in retail, I will tell you this, you can do anything. When you work with the public for as long as that, you are the ultimate problem solver. So I did that for a few years, and then I made the switch into production and set dressing and TV design, which is just another problem solving and being creative. And that's what was the question?
It was what drew you to work in your respective area.
What drew me to work in I love the creativity. I like the switch. I'm not an office person. I will never be a desk person. I'm on my feet all day long. So what drew me there is the constant change and the constant problem solving. I love being that person, like, hey, this is an issue, or hey, we need this tidy. I like to be the go-to person, so that's what drove me to that position. Next.
I'll go. My story is actually kind of interesting, at least I think it is. When I went to college at the University of Arkansas, I was actually a microbiology major because I really said this, and recent news stories might just make me regret that decision, but I said that I wanted to go work at the CDC and play with Ebola all day. Like, it was my dream to be in a lab, to play with viruses, to figure out how to get rid of them. Like, I wanted to tackle that challenge, and it was something that was so exciting to me. And my freshman year, I got a job in a lab, which was a really coveted position. I was very fortunate, and I was putting this lab coat on all day, and I was like messing around with petri dishes, and I realized that no matter how I rearranged things in that dish, it would still be exactly the same, that I couldn't change the outcome or have any fun with it. And then I was like, you know, if I wanted to wear a pink lab coat here, people would seriously make fun of me, and that's not an environment I want to be in. So this conversation with my mom, and I was like, listen, I want to be in fashion. She goes, you'll never make any money in fashion. I was like, fine, I'll be in apparel studies and communications double major. And that kind of made her happy for a little while. And when I finally got my first job, it was as a community manager with the first blogger community online. And that was before social media was ever a thing that people really talked about or considered as a career. And my job was to harness the power of the collective community. There are about 300 blogs stemming from beauty to fashion to streetwear to industry. And so it was my job to sort of teach them how to use SEO to, you know, rank better in Google, and to use Twitter and Facebook to talk to people. And I started just getting really into social, learning about it, learning what made it tick, learning what made it important. And I would say these things to my boss, and she'd be like, that's ridiculous. There's no value in that whatsoever. You should focus on your job. And then we would go to meetings with brands like Gucci, and she would repeat what I said to her verbatim. And I was like, maybe there's something in that. And so I think that's sort of what drew me to it, because I realized that it was something that I was naturally gifted at and interested in and could sort of move the needle in. And when I realized that that was something that I got excited about every day, and that's sort of when I switched gears.
Well, like I said, I was in production and product development for about 5 years, and I always kind of felt like something wasn't totally right. I felt like I was lacking something. And I was always intrigued by the tech scene. Like when I was 11, I was starting my own websites and blogging and all this stuff, and I always thought about that still. So I always wanted to be in sort of a tech environment, and I'd always been obsessed with Etsy. And another thing is that I always was interested in burgeoning businesses and what people were doing, what kinds of things they were starting. So in my role at Etsy, I work with designers and different businesses who are just starting up and just starting to grow, and helping them do that, so it's really rewarding.
I feel like my story is maybe a little bit less intentional in my path, but I studied business in school, had a marketing degree, always wanted to work in fashion, but didn't really know what realm. So when I moved to New York, I got a freelance job at Kate Spade working in production, and kind of just loved it. It was the perfect mix of creative and business, put together, and I love that. And then I've always been interested in volunteering and helping others, and so after being at Kate Spade for about 5 years, they let me work on the CSR team, which even further, mixes all my passions.
So something that I have issues with sometimes is kind of creating a story from my past experiences and taking skills that I've learned and applying them to other things. Since you're all in such unique fields, how did you take your past experiences and make them relevant to your current position?
I will go with this one. Well, dealing with the public, you deal with all kinds of personalities, some aggressive, passive. People are passionate about how they feel about things, especially when they come in to return them, and I'm sure a lot of people have experience here with that. And when I took those problem solving and personalities to this job, which production and TV, you're dealing with Egoville. So you're dealing with all kinds of things thrown at you every day. So I've learned how to just swallow it, take it, and problem solve it. So that was my biggest takeaway from working in our retail and fashion is dealing with people and also dealing with them in the correct way. You know, don't make a fire a bigger fire, settle the fire. Be that person who solves it and, you know, do it in a way that that person's going to respect you at the end of the day. Wow, she didn't blow up, she didn't cry, she didn't go in the corner and cower, she problem solved it. So I think that was my biggest takeaway.
I think for me, the biggest motivator was when at my previous jobs, I had the opportunity to travel overseas to the factories and see the people who were actually making the garments that I was working on. And that was the biggest eye-opening experience for me because it's just not something that you're used to seeing. It's not something that's like on YouTube generally, unless it's like a terrible thing. But just like really seeing like what goes on behind garment construction was like mind-blowing for me. And I took that when I now work with designers, like we really focus on how can you scale responsibly and ethically, how can you build your business sustainably, and that's a motivator for me.
I think for me, the thing that's really sort of gotten me through all of my different career choices is really just being very open about the things that I'm passionate about or the things that I'm curious about, and just sharing that with the people around me, whether it would be my boss or my peers or someone that I meet at a networking event. I think that sort of connection that you can make with people will really not only help you get information from them and find your commonalities, but it will also help you further your career when you actually say like, hey, you know what? I am actually very fascinated by customer experience and customer service and how that can help a business. Then you might connect with the person who runs customer service at your company, for example, and they will bring you in and give you little bits of information, even if it's not a team that you're working on. So I think the more open and vocal that you can be about the things that you're passionate about or curious about or interested in, the further you will sort of discover what it is that your next step.
I think one thing for me that I learned a lot in internships and things before getting out of school was just to ask other people for help. I think in CSR we so often are doing things that no one else in the company has done, so you have to kind of ask different people and you know, get advice from people that are experts that you may not be an expert on. So just not being afraid to ask people, you know, if they know that they can help you and further your move.
Okay. So as a psychology major at Barnard, like Laura, I sometimes struggle with like finding out how to relate my degree to my experience. So this is kind of directed at Laura, but obviously anyone can answer. How did your college experience help you, particularly with the field you're in now?
Well, I think psychology can be applied to anything, so I think it's a really great major. No, but I mean, I think it's all about how you present yourself, you know, like if you're curious about consumer behavior, like there you go, you can translate that into a job in fashion. But also just like understanding people in general is really helpful, or, you know, figuring out how to work with all the different personalities that you come across, like that's very important. But I also think like even more than your college degree maybe is like the internship experience that you've had. That's really how I found out what I was interested in, what I was not interested in, and how I met people that got me to where I wanted to go.
You also want to say anything?
I feel the same way about her, is the internship. I mean, find out what you like to do and don't be afraid to do different things. I mean, I ended up somewhere I never thought I would be. I thought I was going to be like running stores, and I still eventually maybe one day I want to do that, open my own store. But be versatile, like try something different that you normally wouldn't do, or do an internship like maybe with a different brand. You like maybe you're much more conservative and you want to go for a conservative brand. Do the edge of your brand and see what you like.
I think even in like your first job, for example, like you may think you're going to love it and then you get in it and you don't. So don't feel like you're tied to that one thing once you've started. You can always move and always change.
And also we all know, like when you start on the internship, you are the coffee, you scrub floors, you do whatever. It is not glamorous. And let me tell you, the farther you go, I did visuals for a long time with like Ralph Lauren and Club Monaco. there's nothing glamorous, but it feels so rewarding and so good when you like look back, oh my god, it looks so pretty. So that's good to learn.
Alright, next question is, what is the most challenging thing about your field, or what are some challenges that you've faced in your path?
Okay, I'll go. Well, primarily right now, one of my biggest clients is Eloquy, the company that Shannon is an intern for, and I handle all of our content creation 7 days a week on all of our social channels, as well as customer service. And so for me, the plus size community is incredibly vocal, and they will tell you what they want, what they don't want, what color they want it in, what link they want it in, what print they want it in. They will tell you every single one of their opinions, and when they have a negative experience, they're twice as loud. And so for me, it's about reassuring that customer that we've listened to her, that we've got her back, that we're gonna bring feedback to the right team, that we're gonna try to make those changes if it's the right decision for the business, and that if she has a bad experience, that we're going to reassure her and let her know that we're going to do everything that we can do to make it right. And so sometimes those customer service complaints come in at 3 a.m. Sometimes they're happening right now on my phone. You sort of like never know, and you always have to remember that that customer can make such a big impact in that moment. You have to do everything that you can to just let her know that you care.
I'll go, I guess. So I guess working in production, I think one thing that was really hard for me to get used to in the beginning was you're kind of the person that often has to say no to design and to merchandising, and to be that person to speak up, and it's not always what everybody wants to hear. I think that was a big challenge for me in the beginning. But you learn to do it, and it has to be done. So
I would second that. I was in production for a long time, and it was hard because you felt like it was kind of all resting on you in this way. So kind of having to like detach yourself and be like, no, but the reality is, if we do this, this is the result.
right.
Is helpful, I think. Also, just like something I found useful to learn when I like first started working was being comfortable saying I don't know. Because a lot of times your boss or somebody will like run up and ask you something and you feel like, oh God, I should know the answer, or like you want to just blurt something out or whatever. But that's a very bad idea generally, because you want to make sure what you say is correct. So becoming comfortable with, I don't know, but I'm going to go and find out and I will report back is very useful.
I think I agree with her. When I worked for Club Monaco, I used to do, it was the focal store, so we do 4 sets and we'd have the walkthrough with the president and the CEO the next day, and I'd have to be the lucky person to speak about things. Make sure you know what you're talking about and you know your numbers, because not only you're responsible for what you're saying, you're responsible for the merchandisers, the buyers, and everybody else around you. And the last thing you want to do is throw somebody under the bus. That is not a way to make friends, so make sure when you speak to the higher ups of the companies, if you're ever in that position, know what you're talking about. I think that was the biggest takeaway. Or say, I don't know, but let me find out for you. So if you don't know the question, at least have a problem-solving answer.
Yeah. Always have something to bring to the table.
Yeah, always have something to bring to the table. Never just say, no, I don't know. That's like the most frustrating response you can get. Oh, I don't know, but hey, let me try to find out for you. Have a plan A and a plan B.
So my next question is kind of a follow-up to Sarah's last response. So being an independent consultant and working in social media are both kind of very personal with the way that like social media has become like who we are almost. So how do you manage, and I get also anyone can answer this, how do you manage to keep like your personal life and your work life separate?
Not feeling like I have a lot of personal life lately, but I am lucky, right, that social can be done sort of anywhere on any device, for the most part, under the right circumstances. For me, I am so close to the Eloquy brand. I'm so passionate about it. I've worked with them since before they relaunched. Those lines are, I would say they're a little blurred right now, but ultimately it's about taking yourself out of it. You should always take yourself out of any marketing scenario and really think about who that customer is and what it is that they want and what it is that they need. Because the last thing that you want to do is put forth your personal point of view and have it be wrong and not what that customer is asking for, or even what the brand point of view is. You always sort of have to take yourself out of the equation and understand who you're talking to and what you're talking about. It's the best way that I can put it. But our brands are sort of my personal brand and Eloquy. Similar.
I feel very passionately about social media and like being it private from your. Be very careful what you put out there. employers see your Instagram, they see your Facebook. So if you're doing selfies in inappropriate ways, they're gonna see it. So if you do have a job, I work with lots of men, and you post something, everyone's gonna see it. So I make sure my Instagram, my family follows my parents, so like what I put out there is okay to them. Be who you are, express who you are, just do it responsibly. Because everybody sees it. My friend right now is trying to hire people for a new company. She's looking at people's Instagram.
Oh, absolutely.
She's looking like, is this person responsible? If they see her on the bar having this or that. I mean, yes, have a good time, enjoy life, but you don't have to put everything about yourself out there. And just be responsible with it.
And to echo that, if you're applying for jobs in a creative field, for example, like, you know, a design background or even something in social media, and your Instagram is private, I don't have any idea of who you are, the skills that you have, your creative point of view, and I'm either going to come back to you and ask you to unlock it, or I'm going to move on and completely dismiss your resume altogether.
Yeah, it's just, you know, like social media is like great. I love it for business, and it's great to share photos all around the world with people, but just be responsible before you put out there. The best thing you want to do as an employer to see you in an inappropriate way.
Just think that they're gonna see it even if it's private. That's like the
Yeah.
best way
They will get that photo.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, so our next question is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody looking to get involved in your field?
Just keep on talking. The one piece of advice, be versatile. I did it all. I mean, I worked for BMW too, in the midst of working for retail. Then I got into set dressing a little bit long after. But just be the yes person. Like, if there's a great opportunity that you might not think that you'll be good at, just try it so you can figure out what your niche is. That's my advice.
I think also, like, going off of that, like, if you find an opportunity to be an intern or to be a freelancer, like, take that and get as much experience as you can, because meeting those people and getting to work in an environment will give you so much more, you know.
I mean, I had to start at the bottom a few times and work my way up. Just never be afraid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like almost treating even your professional life sometimes is like, okay, yes, we should like work at a job and like get like, you know, our feet in there, but we can also maybe look at other places if it's not working out. Like, don't be scared to make a lateral move or maybe go down a step to try something new, because that's how you'll really end up where you want to be.
I think you can also learn from the leadership around you. For example, at Eloquy, the CEO is always the first to say, how can I help you? Like, even to Shannon, she'd be like, how can I help you? How can I, you know, make sure that you have everything that you need to get this done? And she will be the first person on her hands and knees. And I think it's really important to just have the attitude that you will do anything that it takes to help this company, no matter if it's inside or outside your role.
So what aspects of your job make it different from other creative fields in the fashion industry?
Well, I work in TV and film. I went to set dressing and interior decorating. So, but it's still a creative field. You're still working with people. You're still working in that visual aspect. If everybody's going the visual, some people are gonna love what you do, and some people are not gonna like what you do, and they're gonna communicate that. So just be that. You're gonna get a thick skin. I used to feel so passionately about what I do, and when people used to critique it, I used to like die inside. I'm like, I just spent like 48 hours on this. Are you serious right now? But just take it, absorb it, and you know you're gonna have to be that brand. So just be versatile.
Well, I work with growing designers or people who have their own businesses that are kind of, you know, separate from ours, or more of a platform that they can come and sell their goods on. So that's very different from what I'm used to. But it's really interesting because that means I get to see a whole range of different businesses and interact with all kinds of different people. So it's exciting.
I'm responsible for content 7 days a week, so I have to be the photographer, the copy editor, I have to be like a blogger for the brand, and I also have to handle all the customer service. So it's really communicating both written and visual, and it's some days incredibly challenging when, you know what, some days you're just not creative, and that's the bottom line. And so I have to be very flexible and easy on myself, and just really understand like what the tasks are to do like that day, and then just give myself a break and continue to create when the air's a little clearer.
I think for me, especially having worked in production first, I'm kind of seeing how, I don't want to say cutthroat, but like people are very passionate about making clothes and like making lots of samples and developing lots of things, then moving over to CSR, where it's very different, it's very like people-oriented, and it's about propping up this community and less about like, you know, how many beautiful dresses can I make. It's just a little bit more, you know, doing good. So I think that's a cool way to kind of transition to a new realm.
Kind of, we mentioned a little bit like risk taking and not being afraid to like go other places. So what advice would you have in general about like taking risks, whether it's like, you know, freelancing or you know, creating a new program within a corporation? What kind of general advice would you have?
Networking. I think especially if you want, or if you think you want to do something different than what you've been doing, just talk to as many people as you can. Informational interviews are like a real thing that you should really try to take advantage of. Because I think the problem is you don't always know what your options are, so how can you know what you want to do if you don't even know what's out there? So just meeting people, talking, and making it casual so you don't feel like a pressure to make a decision or do anything, but just, yeah, getting to know people.
I think also once you're in a job, like moving within a company is also a great way to learn more new and new things. So like, for example, for me, I worked in production for a long time, but was always passionate about the CSR program, so I was just very vocal about wanting to move over to that, and you know, every like month or so I would remind my boss like, hey, I still want to do this, just remember me. So just like telling people what you want to do and being interested in things. And
No, I agree. Networking's huge. I mean, you have so much stuff on social media now with like LinkedIn, Facebook. You get to find out what kind of social things are going on. I mean, we live in Manhattan though. You can go to happy hour, you can meet the CEO or something. So I always say this, like, be personable. Be able to talk to somebody. If you walk into the elevator, like, have a conversation with somebody. It's the best thing to do. You're working with people, you're working with personalities, know how to talk to people. I hate to say this, but no one really wants the shy person in the corner to be representing the brand. The person they want representing the brand is the person who's going to walk in like we are right now and just talking to people. So just, you know, learn how to speak.
And when you know what you want, don't be afraid to just jump off the cliff, because a net will appear. Legitimately, like if it's something that you are incredibly passionate about and you know it, like in your heart, it's the right thing to do and you can't see any other way, just jump.
Yeah. You never know who you're going to meet out there. Like, you could walk down the street, just meet and click, and like, oh, there could be somebody you're interested in working for. Hey, this is my LinkedIn. Just be ready to go.
All right. I think probably all of us in this room are wondering what skills you look for when, like, you would be hiring applicants, or what skills are most valuable to your field.
When somebody walks into a room, the first thing you're going to notice is the physical attribute and what's going to fit your company. So I always take accountability as this person presentable. You shouldn't come in with chipped nails and represent my company like that. The small things like that people notice is their breath. Like, make sure you have mint in your mouth before you walk in. I mean, just simple things like that. Starting off when you walk into an interview, those are what people take in. Are they able to conduct a conversation? Are they on their cell phone? Like, if you're waiting out there in that room, just, you know, try to sit there, read a little bit, be presentable. For when that person walks out and you're ready to go, you are ready to show them the best foot forward. And, you know, sell yourself. You are your biggest cheerleader. You're responsible for yourself. So, and also do your homework. Do you know everything about this company? Did you research it? Do you know their downfalls, what things? So they're going to ask you questions like, hey, what are you going to bring to the table? And you better explain what you're going to bring to that table. I mean, I'm sure she deals with this a lot. What is it going to bring to her blog? Yeah. I'm done.
I think written communication skills are incredibly important. I can't tell you how many resumes I get with misspelled words, incorrect grammar, just, you know, even things like font consistency and sizing throughout a document. Just make sure that you are presenting something that is professional and get as many eyes on your resume and your cover letter, for example, as you can. Get opinions from people. Make sure that you have something that's a little more eye-catching, because quite honestly, these days, a standard resume format isn't going to cut it. people are hiring graphic designers and creating these really incredible, beautiful resumes and the funniest cover letters. Like, these people should be on late night TV for crying out loud. Like, some of them are so amazing, and the bar is really high, so make sure what you're bringing to the table is just excellent.
I would second communication skills. I think that's so big. It's also a lot of what we do is communicating with sellers all day. And typos, like, drive me crazy. That, like, I will put something down if there are crazy typos on it. I think that's the biggest thing. But also just, like, showing your passion. Like, are you passionate about the company? Also, what are you passionate outside of the company? Like, what do you do day to day? Do you have, like, really cool hobbies that tie into it? Just, like, showing that you're a well-rounded person.
I think I agree with all of those points. One other thing that we definitely look for is someone that is open to doing anything, like not staying in their job, because our teams are pretty small, so you may go in thinking that you're a production manager, but you're going to do 6 other things. So just going in knowing that, you know, you'll do whatever you're asked to do.